Yes, on this day, Gretzky really looks the exact same. Like his face is the same. That's what I mean. I should not really deduce a big moment like that to the fact that he still looks the same all these years later, but he kind of does, EJ.
He does. And that was a great moment. And Marty McSorley, of all people, setting him up with a great pass, great call by Gary Thorne. We've heard his name a lot lately with the ESPN deal recently announced. Someone who was a big part of calling games in that era, and boy, that's a big record.
Yeah, I was a huge Oilers fan growing up. I just living a couple hours away, and I became a LA Kings fan. And I remember in art class doing the LA Kings emblem on their jersey, and so pretty cool moment to watch and remember those days.
Well, we're going to have to get into Scott Hartnell's artistic skills at another time. I'm going to remember what you just said. But yes, we talk about these records, right? And a lot of the records that Gretzky holds, and there are many, a lot of them we say, oh, these will never be broken. And this is one of those records that we look at and have for a long time said, no one's ever going to break that. It's never going to happen. And now here we are looking at the all-time goal leaders. And Alex Ovechkin, who is still playing, obviously, has 720. So he is making his way up this list and proving to us that at the very least, this will be a conversation. He may not break it, but it's going to be fun to see how close Alex Ovechkin gets. So to mark the occasion, the anniversary of this feat for Wayne Gretzky passing Gordie Howe, we decided to look at some other Gretzky records that maybe, potentially, someone could break one day. So let's look at the first, and I'll get your thoughts on these records. I think we're starting, yes, with most 50-goal-plus seasons. And look, there he is again, Alex Ovechkin in the mix. Wayne Gretzky had 9. Ovi still got a few years left, so this could happen. What do you make of it, Each?
Well, to be fair to Mike Bossy, he could have had 10 if he had not had a very serious back injury, which basically ended his career. So he was a great goal scorer as well. Ovi had 48 last year, and so he could have gotten to 9 last year. But, of course, we've had the COVID pandemic situation, and the league was stopped, right? He would have had another 10, 11 games. Probably would have got 2 goals. So I don't really try to bet against Ovechkin anymore. And if we can get back to an 82-game season, maybe he can have another 50-goal year.
Let's say if he does break that 9 times doing it, he's going to be really close to Gretzky's all-time record.
Yeah, so that's a great point.
Let's hope for that, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Hey, as Wayne Gretzky himself said, if Ovi comes close, and certainly if Ovi passes his goal-scoring record, it would be, quote-unquote, good for the game. And I think we can all agree that even if Ovi comes close and doesn't do it, it's going to create so much buzz and so many people are going to be talking about it that it'll be good for the sport. All right, next record that Gretzky holds is most points in a Stanley Cup final with 13 of them in 1988. Now, during the commercial break, because I do my homework at the last possible second, that series was a sweep. However, it was 5 games because of the lights out game. So before we even get into this, EJ, I want your thoughts on this record because, if one wanted to make it a little controversial, they probably could. They would have a leg to stand on.
Well, I mean, yeah, there was the game at the Boston Garden where they had to stop the game because the power went out. And then, but they counted, I guess, the numbers in that game. And it was a sweep, but the numbers counted, I guess, from the game that was stopped. So, and he had 2 points in that game, apparently. But, listen, you could also say, well, imagine if it had been a 7-game series. I mean, it might have had 20 points, right? I mean, I'm not going to fight over that one. I would say this, though. I love the names on there. I mean, like Levon Cornway.
I made Danny Briere. And
Danny Briere probably benefiting from the good work that you did on the ice.
Part of a few of them.
You were more than a few, I'm sure. But I think see Jacques Lemaire, the great Mario Lemieux, and Gordie Howe again. And so it's a great list. I think this is a record that could be broken because sometimes players just get on a roll at the right time. And we've seen it as recently as 2010 with Danny Briere that somebody was, that got on a run and was able to put up points.
Sometimes there's those odd games where it might be a blowout. It might be a 7-2 and a guy just runs away with the game and gets 5 or 6 points. We see that all the time in the regular season, right? So that one big game would put someone real close to breaking that record. So I think that's doable.
Yeah,
Very doable.
Keep our eye on that one, Jackie.
I like that. Well, one we should definitely be keeping an eye on this season is not a Gretzky record, but we saw Gordie Howe on that list for most points in a Stanley Cup final. And his record for all-time games played is going to be broken by Patrick Marleau. As we take a look at the numbers, he's only 3 away from passing, or 4 away, I guess, from passing Mark Messier. And I'm terrible at math, but, you know, in the teens somewhere in passing Gordie Howe.
Looks like 14.
So
14 to tie, 15 to win.
Thank you.
Jackie.
Thanks, guys. Listen, I have always said I'm an English major through and through. But, you know, this is a big deal. And as we get closer, I'm sure we're going to talk about it more and more. But I actually think maybe we haven't really talked about it enough. It's really impressive what Patrick Marleau has done and how long he's been able to play, EJ.
Yeah, there is no question about that. This is a hard league. It is a hard league to make. It is a hard league to have one good season in.
Yep.
And it's a really hard league to stay for any length of time. And then when you think about challenging the all-time games played mark, which is held by the great Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe, I mean, it's just kind of mind-boggling.
Well, to stay healthy, too, and how much the game's changed in 22 years that he's played, right? Yeah. It's the clutch and grab, the toughness of the game, and then, you know, now it's wide open, so it's helped him, obviously, with his skating abilities. And I think it's just incredible for Patty Marleau to be right there, to pass a fellow Saskatchewan guy and in Gordie Howe. So pretty neat how it all comes around, right?
You know, Jackie, I wanted to ask Scotty about that because he's from Saskatchewan and grew up there. And, you know, Gordie Howe was someone that, you know, when I was a kid growing up, he was still at the very end of his career, and we talked about him more. And sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. I think it was during the final when Pittsburgh was playing San Jose, oddly enough. And, you know, I don't think we talk about Gordie Howe enough. I think fans, younger fans, they've heard the name. But you grew up in the same province. I mean, just give me your thought of growing up there and thinking about the great Mr. Hockey.
Yeah, you sit around on a Saturday night watching Hockey Night in Canada, and you talk about the greats of the games, and you hear these names, you ask your folks how it is, and, you know, it definitely Saskatchewan is a big part of it because I grew up there for, obviously, my upbringing. So, I don't know, it's pretty cool to see that name, just as, you know, how long he played, decades.
I know.
Not just 2 or 3 decades, 4 decades.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat just to have this come around, and he had just the way about him, right? He played the game hard. Sometimes you couldn't play that style in this day and age, but what he did, and then someone passing him, it's
hard to believe.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, hard to believe, Jackie.
It really is, and just a few games away for Patrick Marleau. So a huge accomplishment for Patty Marleau, and such a respectable, nice guy too as well. We've had him on the show many times, so couldn't think of a better guy to accomplish that and to pass Gordie Howe in all-time games played, which we will be talking about as officially done in a few weeks here. But fun to kind of look back at Gretzky's records, right? Anytime we get the opportunity to do that, it's always a good time, Each.
No question about it. He's got a lot of them.